holy day, Muslims. Happy holy day, peacemakers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is World Temple, branch temple number 24 of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We're teaching our people their nationality and their divine freedom. They make minds of love instead of hate. Come make yourself by joining us here at World Temple number 24. By clicking that block of words at the top that says World Temple, you can join us and catch us here every week. We go live every Friday. And we will be getting started here in just a second. Peace, Noble Grant. I see you down there below. If you want to come on stage, go ahead and click that block of words at the top that say World Temple so you can join us. We about to get started with our daily supplication. I'm sorry, our divine supplication and our daily affirmations. And get started for this week's holy day. I hope everyone is enjoying their holy day. Go ahead and share the room if you can. We're going to get started this week. Happy holy day. All right. So I'm going to share the room to Clubhouse real quick. And our regular social medias. So that way we can get the word out that we are live and fine. And like I said, we're going to start here in a second with our divine supplication. And daily affirmations, so that way people could get their weekly affirmations in. And our daily affirmations should be read as a family, as I mentioned here every week. You should read this with your family. It is coming out of our family guide as a holy family. So keep that in mind always. Share this one more time, y'all, and then we're gonna get started here. Get us going. But I hope y'all enjoying y'all holy day. First thing first, I want to give honors to the divine creator. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, the all, Yahweh, Elohim, etc., whatever you want to refer to the creator as. I want to give honors to the prophet, Noble Ali. I want to give honors to the forerunner of the prophet, Honorable Marcus Garvey. I want to give honors to those that were around at the time during the prophet, the original staff of the prophet. I want to give honors to those that came after the prophet, such as C.M. Bey, Hakeem Bey, the messenger, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the reformer, Dr. Malachi Z.U.L., and many, many others that have came and set precedents in the divine and national movement. So with that, we're going to get started with our divine supplication and our daily affirmations, as we do here every week. All right. So y'all know we begin all things first by using the all. O Heavenly One, the Most High, who is sustainer of all the worlds, we do accept the duty you have laid on us to clean up the filth made by the West and its non-submitting fools. O my sustainer, we beseech you to keep your hand over us to control the strings of the courses of our lives. Our sustainer, if we do wrong, please show our divine blessings and forgiveness on us. You are the only one that can raise us, true followers of the news bearers, and in thy name, we carry on. All right, y'all, so we're going to jump right into these 19 affirmations, which we call the daily affirmations of loyalty of the children of the Elohim. We're going to get started this week. All right. Give me a little technical difficulty. One second, so we pull these affirmations up. But like I said, y'all should be reading these affirmations with your family here week to week or every day. It's a daily affirmation. So this is how you affirm things. This is how you crystallize things. Oh. up another way. I don't know why it's doing that. Never had that happen before. Okay, let's see what's going on here with that. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, something must have happened. Let's see if I can retrieve our family guide here, y'all. 'Cause it's saying that it's not available. Right. See something. I know I got it here for us. We should have all the scriptures. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, y'all. I don't know why it did that all of a sudden. All of a sudden, the document don't want to open up for us this week. Oh, I got a copy of it, official copy. So, like I said, if you want to come on stage, go ahead and click that block of words at the top that says World Temple. That way we know you are at least a guest member of the temple, and you come on stage. We invite our members to make contributions, at least 15 minutes, and participate as a speaker in adding on content for our Holy Day service. And please be in mind, it will be uploaded to YouTube and other platforms later on eventually. So you want to keep in mind that people will be listening to it, and the replays is on here as well. So people will come back and actually listen to your contribution for today. So just keep that in mind. Okay. I know I should have a copy of it here. Let's see, got this copy of the Family Guide. It's showing I got everything except the Family Guide here for some reason. Let's see. Some reason, y'all, it's not showing the Family Guide. way. Alright, give me a second. So we can get this family guide here. For some reason, I don't know. Why they taking our family guide? Give me a second, y'all, so we can go ahead and get the family guide ready at least so we can do a proper opening. I'm sure I got a backup copy here on my laptop, so make sure that we get that. Somehow it says the file became corrupted, which I don't see how that happened. Let's see. To the school. That's one of the main books that we use. I don't know what's going on. A little conspiracies. Have a conspiracy on our hand, y'all. Right. We're gonna make sure we get a copy. Always keep it back up. For the family guide. We definitely need extra copies of these books, especially digitally, and how they kind of lossy files. If you are in the room and I can't see you at the moment, please be patient with me because I'm trying to retrace our Holy Tabernacle family guide. That way we could make sure that we can do a proper opening. I wasn't expecting this. So give me a second here as I try to retrieve it. Yeah, definitely wasn't expecting this to happen. We use the family guide every week. School, y'all. Better fix that. I'll make sure we keep these documents backed up because we have situations like that where all of a sudden it don't want to open no more. Definitely not expected. saving this book a couple of times. It's definitely giving conspiracy theory. That's for sure. Give me a second, y'all, while I find this. Right here. Just be patient with me while I find it. Get us a copy. Y'all gotta copy it. You gotta keep it back up. Document, y'all, we got it downloaded here. Say I already downloaded it before, so I know I have it. That was real conspiracy theory, y'all. That way we always got a backup copy of the family guide. All of our scriptures. We should have it here in a second, y'all, so we can get started. All right. So let's go ahead and get our affirmations on, because that was a trip. Get our 19 affirmations on. Like I say, this is something you should be reading here every week with your family and going over with them. Let's see. Okay, you got it open now. That's from today. Jeez. All right, let's get it going. Like I say, I'm sorry I had to go ahead and get the copy of the family guide. That way we can get it rocking and rolling for tonight. Open us up properly. But welcome. Right, so let's get it started. Well, we accept this fact, the daily affirmation of loyalty of the children of the Elohim. We accept this fact, the eternal laws of nature as revealed through science, past events, logic, and common sense, revealed as right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. We accept this fact, the highest laws of nature is the cooperation and harmony of all living things. We accept this fact, our way of life as a means to the best end. We accept this fact that loyalty is the greatest of all honors and treason is the worst of all crimes. We accept this fact that what is good for the Holy Tabernacle is the highest virtue, and what is bad for the Holy Tabernacle is the ultimate evil. We accept this fact that the Holy Tabernacle is the finest and noblest organization for all humanity, created by circumstances, and the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek is the noblest of fraternities on and above this planet. We accept this fact that creativity, love, and cooperation are the essence of success. We accept this fact that truth and facts are always and has always been the originator and creator of all success. We accept this fact that all worthwhile cultures and civilizations came about from the ancient Sumerians and Kamite Egyptians and the Anunnaki or Elohims from the heavens, without which there would be none. We accept this fact that for the Holy Tabernacle to survive, expand, and advance, we need first of all a revolution of values and thoughts, which must start within each person by being truthful with themselves and about themselves. Therefore, we completely and categorically reject all myths, fictions, religions, and lies that have not been proven. That would include your heavens, your hell, your hellfire and brimstones, your horn and pitchfork devils, your winged angels, and your old man God character sitting on a throne up there somewhere. We deal strictly with facts. If you can't prove it, we don't want to hear it. That doesn't mean we won't listen to you. Just don't expect us to accept your beliefs by virtue of a title such as Reverend, Pastor, Deacon, Imam, Sheik, Rabbi, Minister, Theologian, etc. That is your sensationalism, and we deal with just the facts. We accept this fact that the only true revolution is a war of good against evil, right against wrong, fairness against unfairness, loyalty against disloyalty, sincerity against insincerity, honesty against dishonesty. And this war's fought within each person among the agreeable and disagreeable Elohims that make up your willpower. We accept this fact that the unity of our community and its success won't happen with cooperation with all involved. We accept this fact of total unification of all humanity on the basis of truth, that is, accepting people and races for who and what they are, respecting their culture, their languages, and their beliefs, and expect the same. We accept this fact that the human race's biological and cultural heritage is now under attack by our own morals, our self-righteousness, our desire to control industry, and these things attack the very existence of humanity. We accept this fact that males as well as females are equal in all things and should be dealt with as partners in all matters. We accept this fact that no one race of people is better than the other. In fact, no one wins the race in racism. We accept this fact that communication between different people is the cure to the ignorance that breeds the disease, hate. We accept this fact that a good and well-rounded education could prevent most of the ignorance that plagues the world. We accept this fact that the all is just that, the all. You can't take from the all, you can't add to the all. We are all within the all as one. That is our concept of what you call a deity. To the fulfillment of these facts, we children of the Elohim forever pledge our lives, our sacred honor, and our spiritual zeal. Peace, peace. I see y'all. No, Brother Jonathan, Brother Brian. I'm going to invite y'all up. And peace, Brother Derek. I see you down there as well. Happy holiday. Put that block of words at the top that say World Temple so that way you can join us. Peace, noble. Happy holiday. You can hear me, Jonathan?
Peace, yeah, I can hear you. I'm on Bluetooth. I've got Bluetooth, so I have headphones that don't have a speaker, so I'll just be listening a lot tonight. Thank you.
Peace. Welcome. Right, I sent you an invite, Noble Brian. I don't know if you can see it, but we're about to get started here with prayer and our divine constitution and bylaws. I hope no other document had those errors. So that way we can run it smoothly. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump right into the prayer and the divine constitution and bylaws. Y'all know how it go. Facing the east, feet at a 45-degree angle. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through His holy prophet, Zabuwr Ali. Amen. All right, y'all. So jump right into these divine constitution bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. But that cause Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, color folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Zabuwr Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwest and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from the Holy Prophet Zabuwr Ali through the guidance of his Father God, Allah. All right, Charles, we're going to jump right into our weekly readings. Happy holy day, everybody. Happy healthy day. So as y'all know, we start out here every week with chapter 25 of the Circle 7 Holy Qur'an. Get it started here with our weekly reading. I definitely got a back document, because we do not need any more documents going missing like happened earlier. We also want to give honors and welcome our YouTube family that'll be listening from YouTube. Got to get the last 2 weeks sermon up on YouTube uploaded, but they will be there. Just been kind of busy working on things here these past week. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into chapter 25, called the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation. And if you have your copy of the Circle 7 Holy Quran, you can go ahead and read along with us. Islam. As it reads, you are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother had given you suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. As I say here every week, this is the precursor of all action. Precursor of all action. And there's no Kawinki thing. It's right before chapter 26, which is called the Holy Instruction, Unity. The prophet left us with instructions on how we unify and connect. We're so busy trying to distinguish ourselves. Are we this group? Are we that group? Not realizing the prophet wasn't teaching how to be separatists or teaching us to be separatists, but how to create that union, that unity that's needed for us to create that olive branch that extends throughout the whole entire planet. Islam. So we're gonna jump into chapter 47 and 48. Right. Get started with the message. Like I said, the past 2 weeks, we're gonna be touching on economics here in the next couple of weeks, going over economics. Most definitely touching on economic philosophy. All right, so chapter 47, called Egypt, the capital empire of the dominion of Africa. And it reads, the inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family was second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amek, the first true and divine name of Africa. The dividing of the land between the father and the son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and all the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren, who sovereign from the land of Canaan, seeking new home. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa, across Great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake, which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. The river Nile was dredged and made by the ancient pharaohs of Egypt in order to trade with the surrounding kingdoms. Also, the Niger River was dredged by the great pharaoh of Egypt in those ancient days for trade, and it extends eastward from the river Nile westward across the Great Atlantic. It was used for trade and transportation. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation, from the Holy Land of Canaan. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. There's no one who was able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers, unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself. These holy and divine laws are from the prophet, Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America. These laws are to be strictly preserved by the members of all the temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that they will learn to open their meeting and guide it according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and to create their own laws and customs, in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. I, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, was sent by the great God Allah to warn all Asiatics of America to repent from their sinful ways before that great and awful day that is sure to come. The time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess its own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black, and colored was given to the Asiatics of America, who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father, and straight after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing. And we had the reformer come and set a great pretending example how this is done. Structuring temples with their own laws and customs. It's the examples that we set in the work that we do that showed that we got the message, the transmission, that the work wasn't done in vain. Not just the reformer, but the prophet, the messenger, the informer of the gods and goddesses, all those leaders that came and did the work. So we're going to move on to chapter 48, called the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophet. And as it reads, the last prophet in these days is noble Jawali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways, and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days, to warn and stir up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days there came a forerunner of Jesus who was divinely prepared by the great God of love, and his name is Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam. And his name is Noble Ali, who was prepared and sent to this earth by Allah to teach the old time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of men, that every nation shall and must worship under their own vine and fig tree, and return to their own and be one with their Father God Allah. The Moorish sign symbol of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States, etc., that the world may hear and know the truth, that among the descendants of Africa there is still much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemption of the sons of man under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We as a clean and pure nation, descendants from the inhabitants of Africa, do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nation, as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. While we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. The covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earthland, which the Lord thy God Allah had given thee. Come all ye Asiatics of America and hear the truth about your nationality and birthright, because you are not Negroes, none of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We're trying to uplift all of humanity. Come and link yourself with the family of nations. We honor all true and divine prophets. All right, y'all. So, no, we only have me and Jonathan here stage, but anybody wants to tune in and be a speaker tonight, see down there, Doc. Feel free to chime in. Let me know. Let me know if you got the invite, Doc. I may need you to help out, Jonathan. See if you can bring him up, Jonathan. Happy holy day. Peace, peace, peace. You can hear me, Dr. Idris? Islam. He might not be able to tune in, but happy holy day if you can hear me, though. True God. We are officially about to open up. I don't know if you want to tap in tonight. Okay, gotcha. Islam. Like I said, if you want to speak for at least 15 minutes, the floor is open for you too. For anybody that want to speak and make a contribution. Because, like I said, we're going to be going into economics tonight. That's the transmission that the ancestors pushing us to touch on for these next couple weeks. If you caught the week before last, because we had a visit from Noble Kenneth L in the temple to join us from Temple 14 out of Virginia. Week before last, we tapped in with Temple 14 got a chance to hear what it's like for a temple to function physically, but they also do virtual meetings as well. But they mostly meet in a temple or in a temple space in Virginia. But like I said, we're gonna get into this economic measurement tonight, and it's always open opportunity for you all to join and speak and add contribution into that. Whatever you want to add a contribution of, all we ask to keep it at least 15 minutes, and we'll also be putting this on YouTube, and it's also recorded here on Clubhouse. So just be aware of that. And with that, if you want to catch what we started off with, you got to go back and listen to the holy day before last week and that holy day before that week. Rabbi, was that Jonathan or was that Doc? True peace, Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. When I was living in New Mexico, I was living in this small town called Taos, New Mexico. There was this gathering called I Am That I Am Ministries, and they had these like sound, like symbols that were for tuning, for like chakra, different hertz that you hit them, kind of like the singing bowls. And I guess they're really, really high quality, and it was like part of like the temple service. I don't know if that's something that's part of the temple services that you're speaking of, like in the physical temples, or if that's a possibility, or if that's kind of like the idea of what is looking to be built here. True peace.
Islam. Well, that's something that we can do. We can discuss that during current event tonight. I don't know, was you chiming in, Doc? I know I heard Jonathan and Dr. Dre. I'm not sure if that was Doc, but probably. If so, like I say, we're gonna jump right into this economic portion for the night. And really dive on in. So last week, or the week before last, I'm sorry, y'all, we went into the fact that there's not much activity from indigenous peoples when it comes to economic philosophy, or it's not documented that we have participated in economic philosophy and contributed. So as we left off last week, we was going over the timeline of those contributions from different scholars over the time, starting with the three main economic philosophies that we have, and those that have contributed to such, like I say, throughout time. So we want to wake it up and continue where we left off, because we did go over the point that economics started doing what they call the Bronze Age in Sumer and Babylon. So what indigenous people actually made contribution to economic philosophy and thought. Also going back to Afghanistan, Pakistan, what they call now the so-called Middle East, and then the Nile Valley. And as we just read from the Holy Qur'an Circle 7, the prophet said the Nile River, or the prophet mentioned in the Holy Qur'an Circle 7, that the Nile River was dredged for trade and transportation. So it was dredged for economy. It was dredged for economy. Last week, Grand Sheik Noble Kenny-L mentioned that government is based on your religion. So your religion sets the tone for the economy of life, for the economy, for the economics. So your spiritual beliefs, you can't have spiritual without religion, as the Grand Sheik mentioned, is solely due to the fact that you have those day-to-day customs. As it was mentioned by the Grand Treasurer of Temple 14, that if you get up every day, brush your teeth, that's religious. So you can't have religion without spirituality. So that is the precursor, the ethical governance behind your economic philosophy. So as it mentioned last week or the two weeks prior, these societies coming out of the ancient Egyptian Nile Valley helped create the notation system that a lot of us still use to this day on tablets, papyrus, and other things to take account for crops, livestock, land, real estate. So real estate being documented and accounted for, it's nothing new. It's not new. So us scribes, us ancient Egyptian adepts, just as the prophet was an Egyptian adept, us ancient Sumerians, scribes, had the code of Hammurabi, the Enuma Elish, and other sacred records. That was accounts for things that took place. Our trade, our transportation, our philosophies, how we looked at life, historical records of events. So this gives us the framework for commerce, business, and what they call mercantilism, which a lot of philosophers came along and changed these things. So we went down that timeline of those that have contributed to the growth of economic philosophy. And so this is why I say in today's list of those contributors, you don't find anyone indigenous. Though they mention that the ancient Sumerians and Babylonian Egyptians contributed to economic philosophy and the school thereof, but you don't see any indigenous people on that list. So you have names like Thomas Aquinas, you have names like Adam Smith, who gets brought up, even Aristotle in some cases. But none of the names from those Sumerian times, from those ancient Egyptian times, are specifically mentioned. Who was it that contributed to economic thought? Today, we can make reference to the Holy Prophet, the Prophet Ali, making reference to our economic philosophy, talking about us and our economic structure and how it should be. At least the basic ground foundations of the economic conversation. Saying that this conversation and the spirit for it, it needs to be there. So when people say, well, I don't want to get involved with that, they too churchy, they too religiousized. Well, those are people who see things through. Those are consistent people. There's nothing wrong with being consistent with washing your ass. Excuse my friend. If I'm tripping, somebody chime in and let me know. What is wrong with being consistent with washing your behind? So when it comes to this timeline, like I say, you don't find indigenous peoples on that recent list. We can go over the list again here, reference point. List one more time. That way, have perception. What I mean when I say what I mean, I say what I mean. So you had the philosopher Ibn Khaldun in the 14th century. Then in the 18th century, you had Adam Smith, who I mentioned earlier. And then in the 19th century, you had Karl Marx and Thomas Malthus. And then came Leon Walras and Alfred Marshall in the 19th century. And then John Maynard Keynes, who philosophy we still use today, whose philosophy has greatly influenced the Federal Reserve, still to this day. And then you have your more modern people like Milton Friedman and others that are coming out of your most recent economic school of today. But none of these people, and there's more names that we mentioned, I think two weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. The names in the list that we mentioned, those economic philosophers, who also contributed, like David Ricardo, John Mill or John Stuart Mill, Frank Poisson, John Locke, Jeremy Bentham, Paul Samuelson, Frederick Hayek, Louis von Mises, Robert Hellbronner, Amartya Sen, Max Weber, David Hume, Paul Menger, Knut Wicksell, Kenneth Arrow, Edmund Burke, Karl Popper, Alfred Marshall, and I mentioned John Hicks already. So this list, again, has no trace of indigenous people in there. So who do we know that has contributed from the indigenous people, so-called black people, Moorish people, standpoint of economics? Who do we uphold in that measurement? We got names such as Andrew Bremer, which is not mentioned a lot, Phyllis Ann Wallace, Thomas Sowell, Dania Francis, William Trent, Walter Williams, Glenn Laurie, Emmett J. Rice, Robert C. Weaver, William Rogers, Michelle Holder, more recent, Edward Irons, Derek Hamilton, Charles Betsy, Boyce Watkins is on the list, more of a modern day. But a lot of these names I mentioned were born in the early 1900s. they're not on the list of who you would say the contributors to economic philosophy. They don't mention them. They don't mention people like Sadie Tanner, Marcel Alexander. These are names that you have to research or be in the space studying. What about Marcus Garvey, who was the forerunner of the prophet? What about Marcus Garvey? There's others that we could mention that's not spoken about or talked about. But this is why I wanted to dive in, because have a deep dive in on this Benjamin, because we don't discuss these things, these individuals, these events. Like I say, we hold up people like Thurgood Marshall, but don't really realize doing forensics on history that Thurgood Marshall held up issues in cases for the discovery doctrine. There were leaders during that time that mentioned things that didn't get discussed till later on in the 60s and the 70s, that were mentioned in the early 20s and the early 1900s, that was pushed to the side because of certain house Negro mentalities. And we don't get to talk about these things because there's no deep dive into the history, into the things that actually happened during that time when so-called slavery ended and after. We don't know that there was a lot of African American, misnomer Moorish Americans that were inventors. A lot of inventors that you don't hear about, find out about during that portion, during that time. But who's going to do the work? Who's going to leave the message? So this is why I said we're going to be doing dive in for the next couple of weeks, because we got to touch on these points. Because they're calling the father of economics Adam Smith. He's called the father of economics because of his theories on capitalism, free market, and supply and demand. But who before Adam Smith talked about free market, capitalism, supply, and demand in order for him to be called father of economics? And can we ask who's economic? Who's economic? Because who are the Moorish American or African American economists during the 1700s? Was there no one at all when this was a thriving and surviving land before Columbus arrived? What were we doing before Columbus arrived? There was no economics. There wasn't no concept of supply and demand. Wasn't no businesses. Pretty sure there was a lot of businesses around. Pretty sure people understood the concept of supply and demand, especially if we look in the Bible and we see all these times of Great Depression and famine and etc. Calendars, almanacs. Pretty sure there had to be some indigenous economists, some people that are trustees, managers of the global village. Had to be. Can't tell me it's not. But it's up to us to uphold them versus upholding who they tell us to uphold as someone, as a significant individual in the scope of time, what they call history. And that leaves the opening for the next point, which is us having our own economic philosophy, which we call Asarian economic, because we have verification that the ancient scribes are the ones who dealt with economics in the ancient times. We just read last week, we just heard last week from the Grand Sheik that religion is your government. It creates the economy and the way of life for you. It's the economics of life. It's the economy of life. So who could be included in that list of Marcus Garvey, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali? Did we not get great in-depth studies, comparative studies at that, from the reformer, the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Yorkel? As many who want to shun and keep the brother off list of leaders that have came and done great works and added great contributions, especially when you're adding to the progression of our theological thinking. And we're hearing and we're seeing, and it's repeating itself, that theology is the precursor for economic philosophy, what we call natural philosophy. What does the word economics and nature have in common? The definition for economics is concerned with production, consumption, and the transfer of wealth. Economics breaks down the productivity of nature, the consumption of nature, and the transfer of energy in nature. That's all it is. So in metaphysics and in philosophy, you're technically discussing the same thing. We got people like W. Arthur Lewis, Ralph Bunchy, who are not mentioned when it comes to economics. So we read last week from Investopedia I'll put the link in the chat again this week so y'all can see where we sourcing information from. Go ahead and put that in here. So y'all can see where we sourcing our knowledge from, which is one of the most popular websites that a lot of people use when it comes to business, financial literacy. So we kind of cut it short because it's a real long read. We'll be reading forever with all the information that's put on. So to kind of pick up where we left off, which was on the marginal revolution, which talks about the ideals of wealth and scarcity developed in economics. It says economists turned their attention to more specific questions about how markets operate and how prices are determined. English economist William Stanley Jevons, from 1835 through 1882, Austrian economist Carl Menger, and French economist Leon Walras. And Carl was born in 1840, died in 1921, and Leon was born in 1805 and died in 1910, who independently developed a new perspective in economics called marginalism. So when we hear that word as indigenous people, marginalism, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Is they talking about them marginalizing us as a people? Because we sure did get marginalized. Just saying, let's put these things together, but also see past the trauma too as well. What is the conventional meaning of these things? Because we just add definition to word, and that might not be the proper definition of what that term concept means. So what is marginalism? It states marginalism is the economic principle that economic decisions are made and economic behavior occurs in terms of incremental units rather than categorical. The key factor of marginalism is that asking how much more or less of an activity, production, consumption, buying, selling, etc., a person or business will engage in is a more fruitful question to further economic inquiry than categorical question. The key insight of marginalism is that people make decisions over specific units of economic good. So this is where the term that economists use come from, saying at the margin, rather than in all or none fashion. It says marginalism has formed one of the foundational principles of economic theory and research since its adoption in the 1870s, known as the marginal revolution. Concepts that originate from the principle of marginalism include marginal utility, marginal costs and benefits, marginal rates of substitution and transformation, and marginal propensities to consume, save, or invest. These are all core ideals of modern micro and macroeconomics, and marginal thinking, in general, is widely regarded by economists as an important component of what it means to be an economist. It says the ideal of marginalism was separately developed by three European economists, Carl Menger, William Stanley Jevons, and Leon Walras, in the 19th century. It revolves the diamond water paradox that was described by Adam Smith, who is considered the father of economics. The diamond water paradox asserts that because diamonds, which at the time had little practical use value, command a far higher market price than water, which has many uses and is necessary for human survival. Then use value must not be the deciding factor in the values and market prices of economic goods. Smith used this argument to support his labor theory of value and oppose previous ideals that use value was more important. So this is where things like diamonds got more value than water based on marginalism, which could include the concept of scarcity. So y'all can go deep into that because it's on the link. But just give y'all some background on where they get this marginalism from, and when we say marginalization, what it means. So we're gonna go into some insight on that. What are some examples of marginalization? Which is denying professional opportunities because of aspects of someone's identity, racism, sexism, or ableism. Not providing equal access to resources because of someone's identity, derogatory language or bullying, assuming someone got where they are only because they check a diversity box. So when they talk about marginalizing minorities, this is where that comes from. But you can see why it's being used in that fashion from its deconnotative and connotative meaning from marginalism and where it comes from, and the thinking that goes into marginalism. So let's double back, camel back. So it states the key insight was that in practice, people aren't actually faced with big picture decisions over entire general classes of economic good. Instead, they make decisions around specific units of an economic good as they choose to buy, sell, or produce each additional or marginal unit. In doing so, people balance the scarcity of each good against the value of the use of the good at the margin. These decisions explain, for example, why the price of an individual diamond is relatively higher than the price of an individual unit of water. Though water is a basic need to live, it is often plentiful, and though diamonds are often purely decorative, they are scarce. Marginalism quickly became and remains a central concept in economics. So we can see, like I said, how it's being used when it comes to minorities, indigenous peoples being marginalized, and abuse of these marginalism concepts. So we see where the thinking comes from. And this is not to place blame, but we need to really understand the thought. Because if you understand the economics, especially behind slavery and being kidnapped, put into bondage as a people, and your heritage is based on slavery, this, that, and the third, you can really see where these things originate from, especially if you dive into the economic, which breaks down the science of the natural philosophy of these natural events that took place. So it's still gonna require you all to have your new logical thinking caps on as we go through this, because you can see how it ties back to religion being the ethical governance and principles of government. It is government. It is your customs. And your customs create the philosophy of trade, the philosophy of economics. So when we talk about people like Marcus Garvey and the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, etc., those that have made great contribution to our leadership and our roles in the indigenous people's plight, you'll see why their words are respected the way they are. And we uphold them the way we do, versus all of the naysaying, the counterintuitiveness, the counterintelligence that goes into these type of things. So this next section talks about speaking in numbers, which states Walras went on to mathematicize his theory of marginal analysis and made models and theories that reflected what he found. General equilibrium theory came from his work, as did the practice of expressing economic concepts statistically and mathematically instead of just prose. So this went from talking and economic prose, verbiage, or terms to numbers. So a lot of these philosophical proses or thoughts, they didn't have a structure to it. They didn't have a metric structure until he came with numbers, statistics, and putting these things into a form of mathematics. That way they could be properly understood from the concept of numbers. We're talking numbers, speaking in numbers. So continuing, it says Alfred Marshall took the mathematical modeling of economies to new heights, introducing many concepts that are still not widely understood, such as economies of scale, marginal utility, and the real cost paradigm. So these are things that we want to touch on, study. If we're going to be building communities, we need to understand these things and how they concern us as a people, because we have to understand economics. But we do not go into these type of conversations. This is not the average conversation you sit down with your people at the coffee table and have a conversation about, but it needs to be. We need to understand what Keynesian economics is, Austrian economics, and other economic thoughts. And now with your own Assyrian economics, and have that conversation with your people, with indigenous peoples. Possibly with us having our own school district, participate in the contribution to the economic thought, especially with all the technology that's available and all these things. As we see, the pioneers, the primogenitors of this thinking came from your indigenous ancestors. So tapping into the mind, the mental reservoir, and the examples, the experiences that were left behind by our ancestors, we have a great database to tap into, especially for those that want to understand more about why I've done certain things and continue to move a certain way when it comes to our project, because I've looked into these things, I study these things, and continue to, and we have our own premises for it. We have our own economic philosophy behind it that we're developing in conjunction with that. We're not just saying go into economics without direction, without a mental compass. So we know, especially in this temple, that you have the Nucratic philosophy or the new logical way of thinking, which we know roots back to ancient Egypt again. And this is the science that comes from our ancient indigenous peoples who let the Moors in to participate in the development of that ancient civilization, who are now still the trustees of what you call the Moroccan Empire and the Moroccan people, or the Mauritanian people, the Maori people, still to this day. So we also will be having books on economics. We'll be having documents based on community-based economics, more specifically at that. So we're gonna get into that portion next week because I know we're losing time here. But like I said, I want to drive those points home for the things we're gonna be discussing for these next couple of weeks, especially getting into economics and why is an important thing for us to understand and really get into as a people. Really normalize these conversations because, like I said, you're not sitting at the coffee table or across the room. Islam, no, but happy holiday, Yuvel. I sent you an invite. Let's see him.
Pardon the body.
So, part about Islam.
Islam. Yeah, Islam. I was just wanting to say about like boating. I guess this day and age has like this water procedure where you can get fresh water from the saltwater ocean. Like they have like the machines, and like the whole world's been processing. It's real expensive to convert salt water into fresh water with these big, operations. But if you micro scale it down, and where a lot of people are doing that, that's a lot of fresh water all around the world. You know what I mean? So it's just a different way of looking at our world based on the new capabilities. Is kind of what I've been looking at. I don't know why that was randomly kind of. I feel like it was a good point to make because people be looking at like, why aren't people going to the pool for free? People think they have to pay money to go to the pool for free. I mean, like back in the day, in Spain, they had these huge atriums and beautiful places for people to meet up and communicate and actually participate in a society together. There's just a lot of things that are weird right now, and definitely stuff has to change.
Islam. And like I said, this comes with having that sit down conversation with your friends, your buddies that you meet up with on a regular and open up that conversation of thought. Because we always want to, be surrounded with people that could contribute higher ways of thinking into our lives and function on a higher way of living. Hold on. True peace. Right. So all right. So the conversation needs to be had between you and your peers about these economic philosophy, these premises, because like I say, it's not a normal thing that people talk about on a regular. Unless you went to school for it, then it might be a little more normalized for you. But us that take up this mission, especially with the project that we have, the Noon Project, the News Project, whatever you want to describe it as, this is an ancient ancestral project that comes along with that knowledge of how economics work. So understanding understanding that it is something that we must talk about, which we call the natural economic order and the Asarian economics that we have. Because this is why we say we operate in what they call neo banking, neo investment, and everything that comes with having a natural economic order, new ethereal order. All these things go hand in hand. So we're gonna be bringing out this portion more and more and more as we continue to go and source back the information and where it comes from. So we're gonna be really touching on a lot of political science, theological, comparative knowledge and studies, and kind of scaling all over the place. Because, like I said, this information has to be understood, and we have to help our people put their new logical thinking caps on. The reformer, the master teacher, etc., affectionately, however you want to refer to the master teacher, this is what he was preparing those of factology, Nuwabu, the right knowledge, the right wisdom for the right understanding for. But this is not a conversation that, like I said, is normally entertained or discussed at, at the coffee table or at the bar with your friends, etc. Or at the kumbaya when we having the kumbaya, or we need to overcome or we shall overcome. This conversation is not brought up. So, like I said, we're gonna be going into this economic series with this in forethought and bringing out the basis of what needs to be talked about, especially. And we already setting the precursor with that in the books that we continue to write. I just recently published Nulogy or Ancient History and Nulogy, and some others that are going to be getting global distribution here real soon. So we understand that we are the progenitors of the natural economic order. But we have to take up our role and understand what it's about, where it comes from, and why we participate. People think I'm just the credit union guy, the Bitcoin guy, etc. But the work that I've contributed is and contributing is way much in debt and way much bigger than the little box that they try to fit us into. So with that, I want to go ahead and close out this week's sermon. Anybody else want to add any contributions? Like I say, keep it within 15 minutes. The floor open. If not, we're gonna move into our current event and do a room reset. True peace. Temple, branch temple number 24 of the Moorish Temple of America. We are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed that they may learn to love instead of hate. Join us and come link yourself with the family of nations by clicking that block of words at the top that says World Temple and learn to love instead of hate, because that's what we stand for. We're creating a heart space of love, right knowledge, right wisdom for the right understanding, and love, true peace, freedom, justice. So with that, we're going to jump into our current event for this week. I see Trump is back on the headlines for some reason. Been seeing that down my timeline, things like that. And Coinbase has the boot on their neck. Coinbase and other companies in the crypto space have the boot on their neck by the SEC, things like that taking place. And we still got to get the store up and running for the temple. But there's a lot of great things coming, especially with the work that's being done through the Moorish Temple of America and things that we're working on in the background. But with that, anybody got any contributions they want to make or add for tonight's current events, feel free. Like I say, the floor is open. Islam Troop. Islam. So we don't have no contributions for tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into our weekly readings. But I will say the Trump thing is kind of crazy, y'all. So you want to keep your eyes on stuff like that, as well as this Coinbase situation, Coinbase and Binance with the SEC. These are things that I've been talking about in the past, and you know, a lot of people have ignored it and still, done things that involve participating in fraud and just taken away from the natural economic order that we're developing here. And this is actually the first time that we've actually expressed that about the project and the economic philosophy going into the project on a recorded platform in a while now. So like I said, we're gonna be getting to it more and more and more these next coming weeks in our economic series. We're gonna be getting into, as well as adding new formats and things like that, how we're going to be teaching the knowledge in the temple. We're going to be going through the Holy Quran Circle 7. We're going to start adding that into our measurements and going over each chapter for the 52 weeks of the year, one by one, and just reflecting on each chapter. Even if we read it in the weekly reading, we're still going to reflect on those chapters as well. So with that, y'all, we're going to jump right into our weekly readings from El's Holy Quran and where we left off last week. And let's see what messages the ancestors have for us here in these chapters for this week. Had some technical difficulties earlier with the Holy Tabernacle Family Guide. Wouldn't open for us for some reason. Quran kind of opening a little slow here too. I think it's because the apps I added on to the phone. May have to take them off because it can't be blocking the books, the knowledge. y'all, so I may have to go another route because it is moving kind of slow. Might be one of the other books. I knew some other books was gonna be affected as well, so I was prepared for that. So we just gonna pull up our saved copy that we have here. We left off on chapter 23 last week. So we're gonna jump into chapter 24 called Abasa, which means he frowned. And get into that. All right, y'all. So as y'all know, we begin our prayers and thinking by using the name of the source, Allah the Rahman, who is the most merciful. This is chapter 24, which means he frowned, called Abasa, which means he frowned, which was changed in the mistranslation to chapter 80 in the translated Qur'an. And the commentary reads, Ahmad frowned and turned away from the blind man. Abdullah ibn Maktoum, Muhammad is questioned, what will make him perceive if he didn't come to him for guidance to make them calm? Or if he, Abdullah, remembers the facts? Muhammad gave his attention to Walid ibn al-Mughirah. It is not Muhammad's responsibility if he, Walid ibn al-Mughirah, doesn't purify himself. Abdullah ibn Maktoum is striving earnestly and dreads the source. Muhammad was indifferent to him. So let's get into the ayats, which read, and he Ahmad, Abasa, frowned and turned away. When the blind man Abdullah ibn Maktoum came to him and disturbed him, while he, Muhammad, was conversing with the chiefs of the tribe of Quraysh. And what will make you, Ahmad, perceive that perhaps he, Abdullah ibn Maktoum, came to you for guidance to make him calm, to purify himself, or that Yatadhakar, he, Abdullah ibn Maktoum, remembers the facts, and al-Dikra, the remembrance, may benefit him. As for him, Walid ibn al-Mughirah, who seeks to be rich, you, Ahmad, gave him, Walid ibn al-Mughirah, your attention, and it is not your responsibility if he, Walid ibn al-Mughirah, does not purify himself. But as for him, Abdullah ibn Maktoum, who comes to you, Ahmad, striving earnestly, and he, Abdullah ibn Maktoum, dreads, and you, Muhammad, were indifferent to him, Abdullah ibn Maktoum. So this next section of the commentary states, the Qur'an is to be remembered. It is in the Suhuf. All scriptures are pure, by the hands of great scribes. They were Karam. The Enosites is ungrateful. Does the Enosites know of what the source Khalaq him? From Nutfa, then the source made his path easy. The ayat goes on to state, nevertheless, now surely it, the Quran, is to be tarikra, remembered. Whoever pleases may dakara, remember from it. In mukarramat, honored, suhuf, pure pages, the Enuma Elish, which means the Enuma Elish, Gilgamesh epics, Atana, Adafa, Nergal, and Archkegel, descendant of Ishtar, Atra Hasis, those pages. Exalted and pure are all the scriptures by the ayat hands of the great scribes, Zakar or Adam, Set, Adafa or Shunak, Abram or Abraham, who were given the Suhuf, who were Karam, generous, and Bararat, virtuous. Damned be the Enosites, how ungrateful he is, concealing that which he knows,
to be the facts. Do the Inosight know from what Shay thing he created him? From a life germ, Nutfat, semen, he not we, created him. So Kadarahu formed him, not them, in measured stages, which means evolution. Then made his al-sabil path easy in life. So the next commentary reads, Allah brings him unto death. If he pleases, he will raise him to life. Again, the Inosight didn't do what the source wanted him to do. Look at Kui and how it provided him. The Anunnaki poured down water very heavily, and they caused grain to grow in it, and grapevines, and cabbed, and olives, and knuckle, and dense orchards. The ayats read, then he brings him unto death and assigns him to tombs or graves. Then it pleases him. He will raise him to life again. Nevertheless, he, the Inosight, has not done what he has ordered him. So let Al-Insan, the Inosight, look at his food, of that which the planet Kui or Tiamat, Earth, and how it was provided. Surely we not I or me, the Anunnaki Elohim, poured down water, rain, very heavily. Then we, Elohim Anunnaki, cleared the planet Tiamat, Al-Ard, so that it may yield. And we, Elohim Anunnaki, caused grain to grow in it. And Enab, great vineyards, and Cab, pastures, and Zaytun, olive, and Nakhl, palm dates, and dense Hadaik, orchards. It sound real alignment to me, sounding real in alignment with what tonight's message is about. The next commentary reads, and fruits and Abba. It is a temporary provision for you all and your animals. When a Sa'ak is blasted by Raphael, on that day, each will flee from his own brother. All persons on that day will be concerned with themselves. Some faces will be shining, laughing with joy. Some will be covered with dust, the immoral concealers of the facts. So this ayat reads, and fa'akihat, fruits, and abba, herbage, it is a grace for you all and your cattle or animals. So when al-sa'akat, the deafening blast comes, is blasted by the Elohim Raphael, on that day, each being in command or person will flee from his own Ak, brother, and his mother, and his Ab, father, and his Sahabat, female companion, or his girlfriend, and his Banin, children. For on that day, all beings in command, persons, will be concerned with themselves. On that day, some wuju, faces, will be shining, joyous, and happy, and dahikat, laughing with cheeriness. And some faces will be covered with gabara, dust, and gloomy. Katara, dark dust, shall cover them. Those are the ones of you who conceal that which they know to be the facts. They are the al-fajara, immoral. Sudaka Allahu el-azim. So, from what I'm picking up right here this week is us talking about this economic series is very pertinent, because economics goes into those who pay attention to the ups and downs of the market and things of nature. Like I said, economics discusses the production, the productivity, the consumption by nature, and the transference of the energy, which is transference of wealth. Those that are in alignment with the divine will be transformed. So this whole dollar system, because I'm gonna say it, being based on Lutheranism, paying for your sins through paper. Woof. This is why the prophet talked about the things that he talked about. This is why I say seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things will be added unto you. It was a mental mindset that we had that went into the true redemption, which we talked about plenty of times before. It has nothing to do with some paperwork status correction thing. None of this has anything to do with paperwork status correction. Just to go ahead and finish off this quick chapter 25, we're gonna jump into it, called Al-Qadri, the power, which is chapter 25. They changed it to chapter 97. As y'all know, we begin our prayers and thinking by using the name of the source, Allah the Rahman, who is the most merciful. The commentary reads for this chapter: the Quran sent down in the 19th shadow hour period of Laylat al-Qadri. The shadow hour of power is better than 1,000 of months. All the Malika with Al-Ruh, Murdoch, came down by the izn of their sustainer. Peace enveloped the shadow hour. So the ayats read, surely we not I, Elohim Anunnaki, sent it, the Quran, down to Muhammad in the shadow hour period of power, which is the 19th shadow hour period in the month of Ramadan. And by what means would you perceive Ma'a, what the shadow hour period of power is? Laylat al-Qadri. The shadow hour period of power is better than Al-Shahar, 1,000 months. All of Al-Malikat, the angelic messengers, Anunnaki, came down to Qui, or Al-Ard, the planet Earth, and the Ruh, Murdoch, or Michael, soul, by the izn, or permission, of their Rab, or Anu, who is in control of all things. Selim, peace enveloped it, this exalted shadow hour period until the signal of Al-Fajr, daybreak. Sudaka el-Azim, Sudaka Allahu el-Azim. So we're going to pick up with chapter 26 next week, which is called Al-Shams, the sun. And they changed that to chapter 91. So we're going to jump into that this next week. So this information was passed down on what we call the night of power during the Nabhawa, the prophecy, the prophethood, as they talk about these messages are passed down. So when the master teacher goes into the science of what Nuwabu is, he not tripping. He not off by a long shot. This is information that we have inherited from our ancestors, from on high, from higher divine intelligences, frequencies. That make up our divine will, that make up our willpower. So, like I said, I don't expect a big crowd of people to come chasing after this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. At the time, don't even have the personal energy to be entertaining, because this is not for entertainment. This is for educational purposes. Most of these people that argue about, well, it's too churchy. Hey, my fault. You looking for entertainment? You should do that. If you wanted to watch, BET, or you was looking for a Netflix experience, you should go watch Netflix, because this ain't the Netflix experience. Islam. This energy is being saved for certain things at a certain time for a certainty, certified certain reason. understand that. But from this chapter 24 that we just read, this talks about the great calling. You got Dr. Idris in the room, which goes into the portion we read about Raphael. Every person on the planet has a soul, oversoul, that or guardian that watches over them, that's appointed over them, and their bashar during their time as an inosight or in their bashar. Every one of us have a higher self and lower self, which we talk about here on Sundays. But the work is in our hand as a people. Like I say, the status correction things and these conversations is for the win. Truly, it's for the win. So with that, I'm gonna do one more reset, the last reset for the night, and we're gonna jump into our holy instructions, get into our last contributions, and take us on home for the night. But I hope y'all enjoyed y'all holy day. I hope the message that came through transmission tonight resonates with you all. We'll be making sure we get the recordings up on YouTube for our YouTube audience and family, so that way they can participate and keep up with what's being discussed here in the temple. But if you got anything you want to contribute, make sure you come in, come tap in, come join us, come take a seat, especially if you want to share your portion and or you want to make some announcements, things like that. Come participate during the time of current events. Islam. This is how we engage with each other. This is how we connect with one another. But welcome to Branch Temple number 24, World Temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We are a globally chartered and incorporated temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may learn to love instead of hate. Come link yourself with the family of nations by clicking that block of words at the top that says World Temple. We honor all true and divine prophet. With that, y'all, we're going to jump into our holy instructions for tonight and get into that. Islam. So I'm going to change the link at the top of the room. I may have to add the link also on the YouTube description, so that way you guys could click the link and join us here in the school. We're going to get into it. All right. This is our Civics 101. We have our own global school district. So whatever school platform you all are on, we need you all to come over here and get on your own and develop your own and join us. We have our civics taught through our own university within the school district called New University, which is also the name for the whole entire global school district, and is based on the Noon Project, the News Project, Natural Economic Order, our ancient ancestors, project we have inherited. Novus Ordre, Novus Intellectus Ordre. Understanding who you are, your ancestors, and what day and time it is. So with that, We touched on our civic education, which is our study of theoretical, political, and practical aspects of citizenship, which include things like economics, which we touched on today, which include your rights and duties, which come from your culture and your religion. It includes the study of civil law and civil code, and the study of government, which is based on your culture and your religion, with the attention being on the role of us as subject citizens, etc., as opposed to the external factors of how governments operate. All right, so we touched on our civic virtues, which is the cultivation of our customs, our habits, which are important for the success of a community, especially going into that in depthly when we talk about economics, as well as our civic engagement, which is the process of coming together to discuss things, which we went into in depthly on that as well, especially concerning economics this week and a couple weeks, well, the past couple weeks, because even if, I don't know if y'all caught that, but just to put it out there, Grand Sheik Noble Kenneth Gale had no idea that we was doing a series on economics. Had no idea. But the due measurement that he went over this past week really touched on economics from its philosophical, its theoretical standpoint. So we want to take heed to how things are divinely aligned without even having to force anything or, pre-plan anything. The divine is the best of planners. Just remember, Islam. So with that, as you all know, Friday is the holy day. Oh, you who know, when the call is proclaimed to supplication on Friday, the day of assembly, hasten earnestly to the remembrance of the Heavenly Father and Divine Mother, and leave all business and traffic. That is best for you if you but knew, and when prayer is finished, then may ye disperse through the land, and seek the bounty of God, and celebrate the praises of God of 10, and without stint, that ye may prosper. All chaplaincy, temple services, and means are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is our holy day for all Muslims and peacemakers all over the world. This is according to Act 2 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws by the Prophet Noble Ali, which states all temples and subordinate temples are to conduct holy day service every Friday, starting promptly at their respective time and ending promptly at their respective time. All civilians, patrons, denizens, prospects, and ministers are expected to attend the temple for the Friday holy day temple service and meeting. On Fridays, the Moorish Americans, Moorish Asians, and Moorish African Muslims and peacemakers all come together to supplicate and to illustrate that which Allah has blessed them with. The temple services are open according to divine love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. At no time will templars, adepts, ministers, patrons, or outside congregational guests be allowed to disrupt the holy day service. Nor will civilians be admitted under the influence of alcohol or any severe intoxicant. All templars, adepts, and civilians attending the holy day service must have their heads covered with either a turban, fez, or kufi, or spiritual covering. Baseball caps should not be worn in the temple or during temple service. The Sunday school temple service and meeting is mandatory, and all Moorish national templates and temple denizens must promptly attend their temple service and send their children to the Sunday school gathering. The teacher must conform himself and herself to the Temple 101's questionnaire, and let every civilian man, woman, and child exercise his or her 5 senses, who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation, and now the entire global village. According to Act 5 of the additional laws by the Prophet Noble Ali, every subordinate temple should have 2 Sunday school gatherings held. The first meeting should be held 1 to 2 hours before the adult service. Children's Sunday school should be conducted by a director of the Children's Sunday School and program. The Sunday school gathering is designed to assist the temple in learning the Temple 101 questionnaire and developing an understanding of just what these holy keys mean and how they are to be applied to our everyday lives. The Divine Constitution and Bylaws, along with the Moorish Prayer, the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation, El's Holy Injiyl, El's Holy Qur'aan, and the civic editions or lessons of the Holy Temple of Moorish Science are also subjects of major concern for the apprentice who is trying to complete his or her mandatory requirements for pronouncing their temple civilianship and global nationality. All lessons for the adult Sunday school gathering must be prepared by a Grand Sheik, a divine minister, or an assistant Grand Sheik. Lessons called by us by us novites, additions may be submitted to the apprentice for completion and returned to the temple. Once the lessons are completed and graded, they must be placed in the active members' temple district file. The Sunday school temple service and meeting is a wonderful opportunity to study the liturgy teachings of the prophet. No civilian is to become disruptive during the Sunday meeting. All templars must bring paper and pen to the temple service and meeting along with the basic temple literature and assignment. No templars or patrons to eat food or other snacks during the temple service or meeting, but water is permitted. All templars must attend their Sunday temple service and meetings as diligently as they attend their holy day temple service and meeting. Both were called out for by the prophet Gabriy'El and is required as a matter of temple law. According to the Divine Constitution Act 7 in part, all templars must promptly attend their temple services and meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and now also Moorish Science Temple of Africa, and Moorish Science Temple of Asia, and in joining world islands on behalf of all indigenous peoples. For membership, any heads of temple of all temple jurisdictions are not to charge for naturalization or to overcharge for cards, buttons, or anything issued by and through the prophet. Those who contribute to any of the proceedings are not Moors, civilians, or patrons, but robbers. Temple nationality and membership in the Holy Temple's vast estate, or what we call a public beneficiary trust, sisters and brothers, kin and kinfolk, is free, not only here, but all over the world. All kin and kinfolk desiring to become a civilian of a subordinate temple must follow these instructions from the temple secretary and acquire the application for naturalization, which can be found on the link that we had pinned up at the top of the room earlier at holytemples.org, or acquire it from your local subordinate temple secretary. The secretary of the temple's jurisdiction will help all newcomers by explaining the naturalization affidavit and application for membership in the temple's vast estate or public beneficiary trust to the new prospective civilian of the temple's vast estate, or what we call public beneficiary trust, and arranging for him or her to be consulted by the royal council of said temple or subordinate temple. The royal chairman or woman will set the date for the new temple prospect to be interviewed by the royal council. The new temple court civilian, upon completion of the royal council's consultation at the newcomers gathering, Sunday school gathering on Sunday, the new templars will proclaim their temple nationality at the next upcoming holy day temple gathering. After the new civilian prospect proclaims his or her nationality, they will be given the mandatory requirements necessary to earn their free national name and royal title of nobility as a true American royal. These requirements are as follows, and in accordance with Chapter 47 of the Moorish Circle 7, Holy Qur'an, called Egypt the capital dominion of the Empire of Africa, Chapter 25 of the Moorish Qur'an, called the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation, the Moorish Prayer, including the one-on-one Qur'an questions for Moorish Americans, Asians, and Africans, the Divine Constitution and bylaws, the additional laws, and the precepts, statutes, and ordinances from El's Holy Torah, El's Holy Injiyl, El's Holy Qur'an, the Holy Tabernacle Family Guide, and also the Holy Tablets through our Civics 101 course in the Global Interdependent School District, and Sacred Halls of Learning, which is called New University by us, of the Holy Temples of Moorish Science, for everyone of the global village. Once a new civilian or template has learned these additions or lessons verbatim, or to the best of their ability, he or she will be interviewed by the Temple's Royal Council as the chaplaincy to determine if the new civilian is qualified to represent himself or herself as a faithful Moorish American, Moorish African, and Moorish Asian Muslim, or any indigenous peacemaker, and communicated to the ignorant for their instructions, and communicated to the wise for thine own improvement. Once the new civilian or template has cleared the mandatory requirements with the Royal Council, he or she will be naturalized by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister of said subordinate temple. Clear cut. If you pay attention, we go over these holy instructions every week, y'all. The status correction thing, we gotta get the message out there. We gotta blow the bullhorn that is bull corn. Simply plain, simply put, as best as I can. So we also have the Holy Shahada, which is a process you also have to be aware of, or must be aware of, when you proclaim your nationality at a temple. Even if you don't proclaim your nationality with temple number 24, branch temple number 24, and you go somewhere else, at least you will be aware of what is involved. It's not all this paperwork things and all that. That is something that's totally separate when it comes to being a Moorish American. And there was this discussion I told y'all that I was a part of called Private Citizens versus Moorish American. And I basically called the conversation oxymoronic because Moorish Americans are private citizens. Every American in America is technically a private citizen. through the public beneficiary trust called the Constitution. So a lot of these misinterpretations that people be having, especially when it comes to understanding civics, and this is why civics is important. This is why we should be gathered up as a people every Sunday instead of having these vain discussions that are pretty much, coming out of the mind of some wayward thinking. Might not be a wayward thinker, but it's definitely some wayward thinking. So with that, let's jump into this Holy Shahada, which is the proclamation of nationality procedure and the pronunciation of one's nationality, which will be held on Holy Day for all civilians, denizens, templars, peacemakers, or Muslims all over the world. During the ceremony, the new civilian or templars will be ordained in El Bay or Day and given his or her royal peerage title of Kin, Honorable, Lady, Noble, Nin, Naya, Prince, or Princess by a Grand Sheik and or Divine Minister, and also receive his or her nationality card and button from the Divine Minister of the Grand Major Temple. Upon conclusion of the nationality proclamation, the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister will have the civilian, templars, and temple prospect stand while he or she reads the authority of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It is by virtue of the Religious Corporation Act document that can be found in Her's revised statutes that gives the Moorish Science Temple of America, Asia, and Africa the authority to restore the nationality and birthrights of the lost Asiatics of America, Asia, Africa, and all world islands, and give them the title to their vast estate and their heritage. The Grand Sheik and or Divine Minister is to read from the card and have the new national state, Allah is God, and Noble Ali, the Prophet, and I am Moorish American, African, or Asian, and or world islander. This is our Moorish clarification of faith, or Shahada, and our national pledge of allegiance. The new civilian or template's free national name should then be added to the temple's book of life as they enroll in the Civics 101 course and our complimentary World Civics Club. The nationality ceremony should be conducted by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister or any other Divine Minister so designated by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister in his or her time of absence, and most notably by the Assistant Grand Sheik and Divine Minister. The nationality card and naturalization application must be signed bearing the name and title of the Grand Sheik or Divine Minister who issued the application and card, and the date of its issuance. The Religious Corporation Act has deemed the Global Interdependent School District and the Incorporated and Chartered Moorish Science Temple of America, Africa, and Asia as a religious trust and theocratic government established in 1928 on August 20th. This religious trust is the true global trusteeship system for the Holy Family of Nations, forming the global nucleus. Islam. So, as I say, or as I state, blow the bullhorn on the bullcorn, because it's got our people highly confused on what is what and what's real. And there's a lot of people I'm noticing starting to circle back to our sphere of influence, which is a good thing. But at the same time, they got to know we're not accepting none of the buffoonery. Because we did years of prepping people for what it is that we're developing and building here as a global branch temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America, even establishing free national standards before we even launched them in full launch, and other things that have been done. So please go ahead and blow the bullhorn. Drag people butts into the work. If they claim they want to do the work, well, here's their opportunity to do such. Islam. With that, we're going to jump right into the mandatory literature from the Prophet, y'all, and get our last contributions for tonight. We're going to bring it on home. Hope y'all resonate with the message. And like I say, blow the bullhorn on the bullcorn. All right, so let's jump into the literature for tonight and bring it on home so y'all can enjoy the rest of y'all evening with your families. First, I want to read the message that the prophet has to the members of the temples, Islam. The prophet say, be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, Noble Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone, and many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear. Least they will be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they're trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. True peace, your divine prophet, Noble Ali. So the prophet say, keep doing the work. Don't worry about the naysayers and the haters and those that lash out, because they have not yet to understand the long suffering and the sacrifices that goes into the indigenous people's plight globally, which we touched on a lot of the philosophy and where these things are rooting from, and this is what we're going to be getting into more and more and more as we continue to go on here into this economic series that we're having. But with that, I want to go ahead and extend the olive branch to those that need a temple home. I want to give a shout out to my brother Noble Yavel, that just dropped through here today, and others that came through. But we want to give high honors to you all, but we also want to extend the olive branch to those that have not joined us yet. This is the olive branch being extended to you all that need a temple home, a place to call home, or a spiritual home, whatever it may be, spiritual family to link with. We are here. We're going to continue to be here as long as this app is here, and thus we got to switch to another app. We're going to be bringing those almost 300 people now that are part of the temple here into another space, which we have 500 people on Facebook. We got 500, close to 1,000 on Mighty Network. So we definitely average at least 15,000 members from these different spaces. So we might not be gathered all at one time, because a lot of the people that join us are people that love to focus on getting the work done. But like I say, our spirit influence does expand out. So with that, let's get into the message that the prophet has to the nations, because this national and divine movement is to all tribal nations. It don't matter what tribe you're a part of. The prophet is giving you a way to stand on your indigenous standing without subjugation, other than to yourself. And if you don't understand that you are what represents America, then you're missing the great point. You're missing the great work. So the prophet states, if you have race pride and love your race, join the Moorish Temple of America and become a part of this divine movement. Then you will have power to redeem your race, because you will know who you are and your forefathers were. Because where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. Come, good people, because I, the prophet, sent to redeem this nation from mental slavery, which you have now, need every one of you who think that your condition can be better. This is an open field to strong men and women to uplift the nation and take your place in the affairs of men. If the Europeans and other nations are helping me, why not you? It is your problem. The Negro problem is being solved only as it can, and that is by the Moorish National Divine Movement. If you have a nation, you must have a free national name in order to be recognized by this nation as an American citizen. This is what was meant when it said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto you, by the prophet. All right, y'all, so we're going to get into the mandatory messages for tonight, get our last contributions, and we're going to bring it on home. But the point could not have made any more further we got to be equipped with economics in our discussions, in our conversations. People don't want to discuss it. Might not be around the right people that's not willing to go into the details with you. They rather choose to talk about who's the greatest basketball player, who got the greatest stats. You might not be surrounding yourself with people that are in divine alignment. Might have social alignments, but clearly y'all are not on the same page economically or divinely. Especially if you want to talk about things that concern us as a people, the spirit of us, our divinity, and the plight and the mission for us to come up out of economic disenfranchisement. Because that is the mission, that is the purpose. And to keep us out of economic disenfranchisement, out of the poverty mind, out of the state of poverty as a people, as a nation, without a treasurer, as the prophet mentioned, we're nothing. So we're going to jump into this warning from the prophet to all peacemakers, which is to be read in every temple service and temple meeting. The prophet say, I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your card to Europeans, it causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Zabuwr. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. True peace, Noble Drew. So the prophet sending out the plea for us to come up out of her. Like I say, blow the bullhorn on the bull corn. Islam. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and go over this last message the prophet wants us to proclaim at every temple meeting and temple service. Islam. Give me 1 second before I go over that. 1 second. Let me change the link at the top of the room for those that are looking to become active members and join in the work. Right now we're taking contributions through our Patreon until we move into our own website, which we're gonna be working on here soon for the chaplaincy. For those that want to become active members of the royal audience, this is how you do such. The prophet Islam. I don't know why that happened. The prophet said it takes finance to uplift the nation. All right. So let's get into this proclamation by the prophet Islam. Prophet say, I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvations as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without me, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my work which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Islam. All right, y'all. We got any last contributions? Welcome, welcome, brother Frederick. I see you.
True peace.
True peace, Islam.
Wish I'd have been able to be more present for any vocal, man, but I was up here finishing at the job. Heading back now. But nah, man, I think that was a great deal and a great emphasis on us being our own saviors. You know what I mean? Not waiting for somebody to do what's already been done and the provisions and foundation provided for us to make moves and act on. You know what I mean?
Uh, uh, yeah, because we need to have this discussion about economics. Like I say, it's not that typical conversation you have when you sit down at the coffee table with your peers, but it it need to be spoken about and have a diatribe about nonetheless. Islam.
Definitely agree with that.
Greetings, brother Frederick. I see you down there. Just wanted to give you acknowledgement. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You say you don't have the mental capacity for this at the moment. What you mean, brother?
So basically, what I've come to understand, there's always two ways of seeing things, right? And if you keep, if you decide to stick on that philosophy of always viewing the two different things, right? Like evil, good, black, blue, red, white, black, white, and so on. How does that affect your faith?
Are you asking how does having a positive overlook affect your faith?
It depends on negative one. Like if I'm ending on a negative note, how does that affect basically reality and all? Because if you're moving in a constant flowing view of those two both sides, how does that affect reality?
Well, it affects reality by the way you think. The way you think. If you have a negative mindset, or you're just always pessimistic about things, then you're gonna attract those results. Those are the results that you're gonna get. I mean, if you're thinking in a low vibrational way, then of course you're gonna attract low vibrational things that don't help you, help your future, etc. And then that trickles down to your family and your descendants, etc. Hope that helps you, brother Frederick. Did we lose Dr. Idris? Yeah, if you can, brother, go ahead and click the block of words at the top that says World Temple. I'm gonna move you back down because we only let actual official members join. That's what the ticket on your profile means. So I'm not sure if Doc brought him up or Jonathan brought him up, but you want to make sure uh that when you bring them up, they don't have the ticket, so that way we know that they're official members of the temple. It's the ticket that lets you know that they are guests or not. Islam. So I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna move you back down to the audience. You can go ahead and join us, brother. Like I said, click the block of words that say World Temple. But I hope, like I said, I hope that also answered your question. You can let me know in the chat. But we are actually about to close the room for tonight, close the meeting and the service for tonight. But
Please pardon, Bobby.
Islam, go ahead.
Yeah. Since he did get up there and speak, recently I've been getting into the trade markets because it has that kind of dynamic of good and evil, you know? So there's people who have done a lot of kind of mentalist or spiritual kind of psychology educations on the trade market, and people who have been involved over time have gained a little bit more of a solid stance in their perspective of that on off, good and bad, good and evil, because of participating in the markets. So I'm really new to that whole sphere, but I've been kind of grateful to see it because I didn't even see it before in my sphere of influence or perspective. So by now seeing it, it's almost like there's a way for all of us to kind of deal with that, you know, trial and tribulation of what is good and evil in this day and age.
Islam, I appreciate the contribution. To touch on that, the market does represent a neutral space. It does represent a space of neutral mindset, or overview of things, because you have all type of participants in the market. You got your greedy people, then you got your people that are not greedy. So you have the parallels from every side, every corner, every dimension, which way. So it's a neutral space. But when it comes to regulating the market and making sure that everyone in the market is equally protected, then that's when we get into those conversations of the right thing, the wrong thing, your agreeable or disagreeable, and your goods and your evils. Because what can be good for one person could be evil for someone else. So unless we really broaden the scope on what we actually mean, then that could turn into a lot of superfluities about the conversation. So I'm glad you're mentioning that, because those are the things that we're going to be getting into these next coming weeks with the economic series that we're discussing and that we're having. But what we do need to understand, as far as the point that Brother Frederick also was making, is that we're going into a global society, and that that indigenous people are the progenitors on all places all across the world, with our variations and our different makeup. One thing I do want to point out is, because our differences make up this whole aquarium. It makes up the whole Atra. It makes up the beauty of it all. Because if you think about the earth itself, the earth has many different vast geographies and different spaces and places that people are from. That comes with their backgrounds, their culturalisms, their accents, their dialects, their languages, etc. But if you zoom out, that's what really makes the world go round. That's what really makes up the beauty of this whole entire planet. The fact that you have multiple terrain. You have your cold, you have your hot, you have your tropical, etc. The beauty of it all is what makes it what it is. So those things, and respecting that, respecting people, their languages, their backgrounds, and where they come from, that's what makes up the reality for each and every individual to have a positive outcome, because the energy that you give out comes back. So even if it's a chaotic energy, if it's coming from a positive place or state, then it has no choice but to come back in a positive way. So like I said, what you give out comes back. We have to understand that those simple principles are natural laws and things like that. Is At this point, we're in a day and time where we could actually measure a positive thought or a negative thought, a harmful thought or an unharmful thought, whether it's to ourselves or to others. So we really need to take account and not just be so individualistic as we have been taught to be, through the graduation of time and through these societies, and really step back into our ancient indigenous ancestors, way of thinking, and that new logical way of thinking that we've been talking about. Hope that touches to your point, Brother Frederick, and also what you was saying, Brother Jonathan. But with that, we're gonna close out with our prayer. Come back next week, Brother Frederick, or join us here on Sunday. We'll be here for Sunday for our newcomers gathering. For newcomers that want to learn, they need a spiritual home. I'm sorry you missed most of tonight's sermon, but if you can, go back and listen to the replays, or listen to our YouTube, which will have the replay here once we get done. And I'm gonna put the link to the YouTube here in the chat now, so that way you guys could come and grab it. And y'all enjoy the rest of y'all holy day, y'all evening with your families, and we gonna be out, y'all, after this prayer. So y'all know how it go. 2 fingers up, 5 fingers up, facing the east, feet at a 45-degree angle. All right. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Amen. All right, y'all. See y'all this Sunday and next week. We're gonna be going over this economic series, man. We're gonna be touching on some very, very pertinent things. Join us, look into the work that we got going on, do your research, visit the Holy Temples with an S.org. That's Holy Temples with an S.org. If you want to learn more, or learn more about Noble Drew Ali, you can listen to our previous recordings, and we go into much great detail, fundamentally, without the rhetorical bias that most individuals that may be a part of the temple have when you come across them. So we try to make sure we convey the message more fundamental and universal as possible as we can. But we all are one, whether you're on the negative side or the positive side. All must come from a positive spark and a negative spark taking place, which we call electromagnetism. So with that, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day. Be loved, be well, be blessed, be divine. Divine love, true peace. Hua.